Welcome to Midlife Schmidlife, the online community for listeners who want to redefine the middle years and recreate their lives lived to the fullest. Join our host, Liz Applegate, as she interviews guests over the age of 40 who are turning their maybe somedays into today and going after their dreams. Let's get the party started.
Hey, Schmidlifer, Liz Applegate here, and I am so glad that you are joining me today. When I started this series that I'm calling Now More Than Ever, the global pandemic was the backdrop and really the whole instigator of the series. And now on June 3rd, 2020, when I'm recording this, we have the pandemic. And we also have a lot of hurt and anger from displays of racism and social injustice. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. This is probably take 34 of the intro to this episode. I have so much that I want to say, and I want to use this platform as a way to do it. And I also want to use this way of communication to be real and honest. So I want to take this opportunity to share where I am and what I'm doing in hopes that it also inspires you. As a white woman, I'm very aware that I have work that I need to do around systemic racism and my own color blindness. I have taken to educating myself, to reading books, to paying attention where I'd rather turn away, to having conversations, and to really, really listening. In the show notes for this episode, I'm going to have links to resources that I've discovered, and they are ones that I want to share with you and hope you will join me in becoming an ally for the Black community. Now, as a white woman in business, I had things planned for June, to be honest, but I've delayed them. It just didn't feel right to show up with so much going on. It made me feel like someone who was being unaware of the pain of others. And it didn't feel right to be pitching a program with the backdrop of what has been happening within the last week. I want to show up authentically and not performatively, but allowing social media as a space to amplify what was happening felt right for me. More so, I wanted to amplify the voices of those who wanted and needed to be heard. And so that's what I've taken to doing. If you follow me on Instagram and you are seeing my Instagram stories, I'm trying to share resources and I'm trying to do what I feel is best, which is also inspire you to really listen and to gain an awareness of what is happening. What I didn't delay, though, was the conversation with my friend Nariah Broadus that I am sharing with you today. Now, Nariah is one of my trusted coaches and friends, and we are both on the leadership team for the Courageous Living Coach certification. And Nariah is also a woman of color. So we had this conversation scheduled for a couple weeks. And as we were getting closer and knowing what was happening, I wanted to be sure that Nariah was still up to having it. And I certainly would have understood if she chose to reschedule. The topic had already been settled on, and ironically, the topic is giving yourself permission and speaking up. And honestly, it just seemed, I don't know, I mean, as ironic as it seems, as we were getting closer, it also seemed like just the right time to be having that conversation. And just as Nariah does, she very willingly said that she wanted to have the conversation, that she felt it was important. And she was hoping that people would get something out of the story that we were telling ourselves, that were keeping us playing small. Those stories, those inner narratives that tell us we should and shouldn't be doing something. And she felt the conversation was not just about race relations, but also speaking up in your life and giving yourself permission to do so. And she also shared that this is what she feels brings about positive change. It's just those little steps that you start with. So I'm hoping that you not only learn about giving yourself permission, but also about being willing to be messy with it. Be messy with knowing that speaking up for the bigger things, like speaking out against racism, means that it's okay to not have the exact words or know exactly what to say. Please realize that no one is expecting that. Every single person I've spoken to is not expecting that. What they are wanting, though, is for the white community to speak up. What's important to realize that as white women, we have more influence and power than we ever thought possible. So please use this time to listen, really listen, to learn and take action. The links that I share in the show notes will help you do that, but also be aware of things like reaching out to your Black neighbors and friends. Let them know that you want to listen, that you want to learn. Ask them what they need for support and be willing to listen to their answers. Do more listening than talking, even if it's uncomfortable. I've already heard from listeners to this conversation that took place firsthand in my Facebook group, where Nariah and I had recorded this as a Facebook Live. I've heard steps being taken to reach out and steps being taken in learning and awareness. And my hopes are that this inspires you too. I'm so excited today. So if you saw my Facebook event invite for this conversation, I said that one of the greatest joys that I've been having with having these conversations over the past couple months is that I get to introduce some of my most favorite women in the world to other people, and today is definitely no exception. So today I am having a conversation with my good friend Nariah Broadus. I had to laugh because I didn't want to butcher her last name. So, and I just am so glad to be sharing this conversation. It looks like we actually have Jill Brown is listening to us, Heather Hall, and Jennifer. And so we have people that are listening in. And so before I go any further, because I know all about your wonderfulness, I would like for you to take a minute and introduce yourself, Nariah.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much, Liz, and welcome everybody. It's great to have you here or have you listening after the fact. It's just great to be with Liz, who I've gotten to know through my work as a coach and my work as a trainee in the Courageous Living Coach Certification Program. I'm currently a career and leadership coach, and I mostly work with women who are, I call it navigating transitions. So mostly in a professional space. So that could be, I took a new job and I'm looking to step into leadership. It could be, a lot of it is folks who are like, I don't know what I want to do next, but I know it's not this shit. So that's a lot of what I do. And currently I live in Vermont. And for those who are listening and who may not be seeing me, I am a woman of color, specifically a Black woman. So that might be important as we get into talking today, just to add some additional information.
Well, this is true, Nariah. And thank you for adding that, because it would have been awkward for me to do that. So yes. So I think I'll just hand the show over to you.
I got your back on that one. I'm not going to leave you hanging.
I really appreciate it. I appreciate so much about this. And so here's the interesting thing is that when we spoke about, so I started this series that I'm calling Now More Than Ever, which I know grates on people's nerves because of just the whole pandemic thing, but whatever, they can get over it. So you and I talked about having this conversation with you, and that was going to be like the main focus, because that was the main focus. We were still in shelter in place, and we still are. And, the global pandemic and things, I don't want to say things have shifted, but just there's a lot now in the news and a lot going on in our country. And so I've been asking all my guests this question, and I'm going to ask you as well, like, how are you? How are you? Like, what's coming up for you right now in the midst of all of this?
Yeah, I think, and this would have been true even a couple of weeks ago. It feels very much like a day by day, maybe even hour by hour kind of roller coaster, like a whole mix of emotions. And certainly, a lot of the conversations I had with people when we first were entering shelter in place felt like that for a lot of folks. And, I'll be honest that like the events of the last week or so here in the US, particularly around killing of Black people, civil unrest, I would say the removal of civil liberties, adds like an additional kind of pressure to that. And, in this moment, I feel more centered than I have over the last couple of days and weeks, but it feels like there's a tension, right? Like just a sort of holding space for the day-to-day, the like everyday stuff of life as humans and, what I do in the world. And then this sort of other space of being a Black woman living in a super, super predominantly white state, married to a white man, and negotiating all of that against the sort of national backdrop, which still includes a pandemic. I feel like there's part of it's like, oh yeah, P.S. still with a pandemic. So I appreciate you asking that genuine question. I feel okay, and that's like about as good as it feels like it's going to be for this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What is interesting to me, and this is kind of what we were originally talking about, was this whole idea of like permission, is that there's like something that has shifted for me. And I think it has been a process. It's not like one day I woke up and suddenly I given myself permission, but I feel like there's been this sort of growing sense for me of thinking about all the places where I am keeping quiet, all the places where I tolerate or I hold back or I make assumptions about what is possible and what's not. And, originally we were talking about this in the context of career coaching, right? Like how many of us at work feel like there's a certain way we have to be, there's a certain way we have to show up, and we can't say things or do things or sort of, break out of line. And last week I wrote a couple of posts on Facebook that were about how I was feeling in this moment, about being a Black person in the US and what I was seeing, and really asking people to do more. And that was a place where I felt like I needed to give myself permission to be angry, because I have tried really, really hard for most of my life to not be angry. And that's, I think there's a lesson in that for everybody, like wherever you are in whatever is happening in your sphere, that there's something so, I don't know if I want to say liberating, but so important about not waiting for somebody to give you an invitation, right? To like take it, like assume that the invitation is there and step into something.
Right. And I can't help but think as as we're having this conversation, we are in a Facebook group that is all women. Most of my listeners on the podcast are women. So I also can't help but think that just as women, we look for permission a lot outside of ourselves. And we also We also view that anger as almost being something bad, like we're not supposed to be angry. And so I can only imagine that as a Black woman in America, that must be both of those things like magnified. And I'm just guessing on this, but just from what I can imagine it being. And when I saw your post last week, I mean, I knew this conversation was coming up, and I was like, holy shit, like she's given herself permission. And was that just, I'm curious, like, because I know you, right? Like, I know you personally, and I know that standing up like that is something that you, it's just right there, and I've seen it. Like, I knew it was going to bust out. And it was also done with such love.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, even what you shared today was just done with such love. And I know that I'm not even sure what I'm asking right now, but just kind of like, was that just like a moment when you said, okay, my time is now, I'm going to stand up and I just can't contain it any longer? Or was it planned out, or?
Definitely not planned. Yeah. There's no planning involved. Right. In case anyone's like, oh, it must have been really crafting that. No, that was a totally like, I'm trying to think like how this happened. I was scrolling through Facebook, which I haven't been on a lot lately. I've been on Instagram a lot more. I think mostly as a way, honestly, of sort of protecting myself and my energy. And was on Facebook seeing so many people posting about George Floyd, posting about Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna. I cannot remember her last name currently. Taylor, maybe? I'm going to forget. Apologies. But, post after post after post, image after image, honestly, super traumatizing images. So I know I certainly saw lots of people of color who were posting them as well, but super traumatizing. And I saw people posting, and if you really knew me, you'd know, like, I have probably easily 4 or 5 times in the past thought about posting something, have gotten to the place where I've crafted something. I say crafted, meaning, just wrote something, not like I was massaging the language, but like wrote something and then stopped myself from posting it and just deleted it and said, like, I just don't even want to get into it with people, and I don't want to deal with whatever might come back to me. And I think what happened for me last week was I was seeing all these posts, seeing all this stuff, and I was just, maybe it's partly, the pandemic, and maybe it's 4 years, speak for myself, 4 years under this administration, government administration, that I'm broken in some ways. I'm broken because I'm tired and exhausted, and it just feels relentless. And at the same time, I feel like I'm a lot stronger, right? Like, I feel like there is part of me that has just gotten clear on like what matters to me and isn't afraid to step into letting it roll, like just letting it fly. And so I wrote this, and I was like, all of that is fucking true. Excuse my French, but all of that is true. And for those who haven't read my post or don't have access to it, I think Liz has shared it on her page. Basically, it was just for me saying, I see you posting all of these images, but it sort of just feels like you're responding to this moment. And where are you day after day? And I certainly get that there are lots of people who, one, are doing good work and actively engaged in their communities or educating their families that don't post about it. I'm down for that, right? You do not have to be out there on social media. And I know there are people where posting something on social media, one, is their first step into speaking up or sharing what's true for them.
Right.
And I absolutely want people to continue to share things on social media because you depending on where you are, you're going to reach different audiences than, are in my own personal networks. So all of that is valuable. So this is not a either or, this is a yes and for me. So yes, you're posting on social media. My call was around some of these people are regularly posting on Facebook. I'm seeing you every single day on Facebook. And the only time I ever see you talking about injustice, equality, diversity in any way is when someone has been killed.
Right.
And I frankly don't need that. Right? Like what Black people don't need is more people just talking about us when we get killed. So if you are regularly on social media, my sort of ask is like, where else are you including voices? If you don't even have to post anything, just like noticing who you're following. So, my kind of concern was like, people say they care about me, they see me in all sorts of ways, but I don't necessarily see action aligned with that. And even in small ways. So there wasn't a lot of like forethought and planning. It's just like, maybe there was some thought in my head that like, am I colluding if I continue to wait for some perfect moment, think it, but don't say it, right? Like, am I part of the issue, right? That people actually think it's okay, right? Like, are there some people out there, I certainly hope not, but are there some people out there who think, well, I think I'm cool because I have a Black friend, her name's Nariah, and she never says anything about this. She's never called me out on this. And I would be really remiss if I didn't use my moments, right, or like my own privilege to say, I'm gonna call bullshit a little bit on what I'm seeing,
Right.
and with love. Hopefully, I'm glad that you felt like you heard that, because there was love, there was an appreciation of. I appreciate everything that people are doing, and it is exhausting and tiring and super hard. And it's really hard to communicate that to folks and to hold space for both the love and the anger.
Right. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. There's something there's so much of what you just shared that I love, and I feel like we could just dive into there's so many places, but what I really notice is that you are saying that you felt you would be remiss, you even use that word remiss, if you didn't use your own privilege and the circumstance. And I feel like that's such a good lesson for me and for many of the listeners or people who are watching. The whole theme of this is speaking up and giving yourself permission. And yet I feel like I'm hoping that this conversation is giving you all permission to speak up. And myself, I'm not sitting here saying that I've got it all down, because I know that I don't, but that this really is a conversation about not just last week or this week, but it's going to be in next month, next year. I mean, like we can't just be settling and using this opportunity and then all of a sudden go quiet. Yeah. This is an ongoing conversation. And I also want to broaden it. I don't want to belittle race relations by any means, but also think about how this plays into your life as a whole, with everything. What are you standing for? What are you standing up for? What are you using your life for? What are you using your love for?
Yeah.
And it's okay to be angry and hold love in the same. Like it doesn't have to be an either or. So anyway, I feel like I'm on a soapbox.
No, but you need to get on the soapbox. I mean, I think people need. Certainly, that has been a lesson for me. You know, I grew up in a household where, in many ways, I was encouraged, and I felt like I had lots and lots of support. But our family does not talk about shit. So we are people that keep quiet. And so when I think about like giving myself permission, it is largely for me in the space of speaking up and speaking out. And that's not always about injustice. Sometimes it's just saying, favorite example, how many people here listening have had this thing go back and forth with a partner or a friend even about, well, where do you want to eat tonight?
Yeah.
You know, what do you feel like eating? Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty open.
Whatever you want to eat.
And then they, you know, they throw out something and you're like, oh, I cannot even imagine getting that one more time, right? But we're silent, feel like, okay, I'll just go along to get along, right? So that is a super small slice, but it's just like one way that we make ourselves smaller, that we fit ourselves in around other people. And my kind of guess or kind of hypothesis is that when we're doing that, if you're doing that in that small way, I'm not saying that every single day you have to be like, it's my way or the highway, but if you're doing those sorts of things pretty regularly, it would be very surprising to me if you then suddenly were able to really advocate for yourself at work, right? Or to speak into injustice when you're seeing it, or to address some sort of violence or discrimination in your life, right? The bigger things don't get easier when you're not tackling the super small things, right? I'll just share, like you and I had a really interesting experience at a personal growth retreat last year. And, you know, for me, so much of that work was around me, you know, the question that was sort of asked of me is like, you know, where do you, on a scale of like 1 to 10, where do you live your life most of the time? And I can't even remember what I answered, something like maybe 5 or 6 or something like that. I mean, and that's true. And I think a lot of people would be sort of surprised to hear that from me, but that's true for me. So if you think about myself being, I would say like a fairly accomplished, privileged person, but living my life on that 6. And I thought, I want to, you know, I don't even know if 10 is possible, like what that would even, I can't quite imagine what that would look like or sound like for me. But I could imagine getting to like an 8 or a 9, right? Like that seemed possible, and like it would just open things up in such a big way. But it wasn't going to start with me getting on a big platform and having a website or trying to do speaking engagements. It was like me saying, I don't want to do that trust building activity. Right. Like I don't know. I don't want someone hoisting me over a fake wall. Thanks, but no thanks. Right.
Both you and I are like, oh, hell no.
I was, but if you remember like that experience when it was like, everyone was like literally standing there in front of me saying, Nariah, true yes or true no. So here, that's like such a great example. Here I have someone saying to me, you have permission to say no. And the story in my head was, you don't really.
Right.
You will be judged.
Right.
There will be a repercussion. You know, did I give a true yes or true no? I'll be honest. I didn't.
Well, I know you didn't.
I didn't. I compromised and I said, I don't want to do it this way. I'll do it this other way. If I had to do it over again, I would give a true no. I'm going to applaud from the sidelines. Thanks. I'm out. But I remember, you know, after that, someone, you know, made a comment to the group about feeling like they felt some kind of a way about my compromise and how that impacted other people. And you and so many others were so great, sort of coming to my defense. And I remember feeling like in that moment, I at least knew I had stepped further towards a true yes or true no, right? It wasn't like firmly there, but I was going from that 6 to a 7, right? And so this person saying something about me to other people in front of the whole group kind of like rolled off of me. I just felt like that's true for her. Says more about her experience than my experience. I have to sleep with myself at night. I have to wake up to myself every morning.
Right.
I'm cool. I'm good with that. Part of, I think, the challenge of growing into this, of like growing into giving yourself permission and speaking up, is that there are sometimes repercussions. You're taking risks. Like there's a reason why you probably haven't done this. Some of it is conditioning, and some of it is like, no, legit, you've had like a bad experience. Someone has come after you.
Or you've seen it happen.
Totally. Like,
yeah, right.
It's not like you're totally making something up, but it's, and again, I wrote that first post on Facebook, and the next day, the follow-up post was, I feel like I have a little bit of a hangover over having done that so publicly, and feeling like, ugh, now what? Now where do I go?
Right.
What's interesting to me is that next day, I was actually talking with my therapist, and one of the things that kind of came to light was this idea of staying in it. So it's like my first sort of post was really an invitation for people to stay in this moment with all of us who are people of color, right? To really be in it, be in the messy, be in the discomfort. And I felt like that was also something I needed the next day, was for me to stay in it for myself, right? To stay in, it's like, okay, you just turn the volume up some more. Maybe you're at what feels like an 8 now. So are you going to lower it, right? Like the neighbors are maybe a little cranky. They didn't like it. They're like, that's not my kind of music. Right. We're not used to hearing that from you.
So loud.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, so many people over there. What's going on?
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like it.
Yeah.
I like the 8. I like me at an 8, and far more than me at a 6 with other people seemingly comfortable, right? And at the end of the day, again, I go to sleep with myself. I wake up with myself. I mean, I have a husband, but but
I'm not talking about him.
But mostly it's like,
you look at yourself in the mirror and
totally.
Right.
Totally. A friend of mine, I can remember earlier this year, I think I was debating some sort of decision or showing up, doing something. And she just said to me so clearly, she's like, do you have your back?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I know so many people want to support you. Do you have your own back? Right. Can you look in the mirror? Like you just said, can you look in the mirror and say, I got you?
Right. Yeah.
And for me, giving myself permission, speaking up, like all of that is in service of having my own back. And I think whatever it is that matters to you or whatever is important to you, there is benefit to taking a look at where you are tolerating something, you are keeping quiet around something.
Right.
Where you are not having your back, right? Where you are just eking by, maybe you're at a 4.
Yeah.
And you would just love to be at a 5.
Yeah.
we deserve it.
Yep, for sure. And so here's what I'm noticing, like that very easily could be like a mic drop. Okay, we're done with this conversation, because it's like, so, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, that just wraps up like everything. But I feel like it's important because you mentioned a word that I've heard you say before, and I feel like it's important for those who are listening. You're like, oh shit, what did I say? Yeah, what did I say?
Elizabeth, where are you going with this?
No, what I heard you say and what I am trying to embrace is being messy in it. Right? Like, and so I am allowing myself to be messy in standing up and out. I know, and I'm going to just speak from myself here. I know I'm going to mess up. I'm not going to say the right thing. I know I'm going to, I don't know, do something that I think is being helpful that is not helpful at all. I'm going to fuck up like that. Like I already know, but I'm allowing myself and giving myself permission to stand up and to speak up, to just know that that's going to happen and I'm not going to be perfect in it. And, I know that there's a lot of people in this group that are like, some own businesses, some don't, some just are podcast listeners. I'm speaking also in that from a perspective of owning a business, that I want to stand up and not be perfect in it as well. And I think that I just wanted to take that moment just to recognize that you even said that you're standing up and not being perfect in it. And so I want us to take that in whatever we are standing up for, just to realize that we're not going to be perfect in it. That getting to that 8 or that 9 means a lot of imperfection along the way.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I mean, God love you for it, right? Like I would so much rather have you showing up more consistently. I mean, this isn't just for you, but like any person, right? Showing up more consistently as themselves, for themselves, and hitting that like slightly off note, getting the feedback around it from others or from themselves, right? Because half the time the feedback is like from yourself, where you're like, I did not like that. Like I reflected on that, and if I could, I would do that over. I would do that differently, right? But like, what doesn't serve us is, and I have totally spent a lot of time in this space, is being the person that's like, I fucked it up, and therefore I'm going to beat myself up. I'm going to treat myself like shit, and I'm going to stop myself from trying it again and putting myself back out there, right? It's like very much that, who am I? And it's like, well, I am imperfect and showing up anyway. I am trying. Can I say I was coming from a good place? Did I listen? Did I grow? Did I change my behavior going forward? Perfection for me has long been my way of hiding out, right? It just is like another way of keeping ourselves from stepping into, I'll say, greatness, like whatever that looks like or feels like or sounds like for you. Like it's just one more thing that actually encourages you to stay in your place. I would say, right? Yeah, to stay in quote unquote your lane. And I'm not having it. It is scary as hell, right? So like, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, she sounds awesome, super, like she's got this. I do not have this. What I have is, I guess, a certain amount of clarity of knowing I feel well resourced to navigate what comes next, like to sort of figure it out. Right? I was saying, I can't remember who I was saying this to, but someone recently, and I said, like, you don't have to have all the answers right now. You're not going to do it exactly right. Like, you have to feel at least resourced enough, either in yourself or with others, to keep going, to keep asking questions, to stay in it, right? Like, literally, it's like, stay in.
Yes.
You're working on your business, you try something, it doesn't go well, launch fails, get weird feedback, whatever it is, stay in it. Figure out another way, figure out what wasn't working. And we've talked about this before, that for me, some of the times when like things are not working or clicking, it's because I am still listening to somebody else's vision, right? I'm still listening for somebody else to tell me what to do and how to do it. But I would never figure that out if I took myself out of it, right? If I just said, oh, I don't know, this is too hard,
Yeah. And that's honestly, like, that's living at a 3. Like we talked about living, like that's living at a 2 or 3. And how many of us do that and settle for that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for years. I mean, a really, really long time. I'm sure there are still places where I'm doing that. My commitment is to growth and to staying in it as much as possible. Some days I can't be in it, or I need to be in it differently. Right. So that's not always externally facing. It's not always answering every email and responding to all the texts. Sometimes it is regrouping, getting quieter. But there's something so, I want to use the word empowering. I mean, I think there's something so special about when you get to a place of saying, I'm willing to try something different. And I'm even giving myself permission to just try something different.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Permission to try something different and permission to trust yourself that you can get through it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it took me a long time to not be afraid that literally I could not survive whatever would come next, right? Like, I think for some of us, there is, in fact, a real psychological fear that I cannot survive a failure, a misstep, whatever it is that you're holding yourself back from, right? And I'm not a be fearless kind of a person. I'm like, oh no, feel fear a lot.
Oh yeah.
But I am a sort of, testing out that assumption. It's like a hypothesis, right? It's like, so your hypothesis right now is I cannot survive that. I really invite people to think about, before you try something out, to think about where and how you are resourced, right? Like, literally write a list. What are your resources? Who are your resources? And then to think about, like, what's the smallest step you could take towards turning up the volume, giving yourself permission, speaking out. Yeah.
I love that. Great steps to take. Nariah, where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah. So probably, I have to keep a personal page for the most part on Facebook and Instagram. But you can find me with my business at NariahBroadus.com. And I welcome hearing from folks. So folks are welcome to email me at NariahBroadus@gmail.com if you want to reach out for a personal conversation. And I love hearing from folks. So please don't be shy about just saying hi.
Thank you for that. And I'll have links in the show notes so people can find you online on your website. And so here's something that as we're closing out that I forgot to tell you, Nariah. So I just want to warn you, when I hit end on this, I think it might disconnect us. So if that's true, I'm gonna follow up with you. But I can't thank you enough for coming and having this conversation during a difficult time and just being real and honest. And I wish we were sitting in the same room having this conversation, but I just want to give you a big hug and want you to know I love you so much. And just, I feel very lucky to have you in my life. So
thanks, Liz. Thanks for inviting this conversation and opening up a space for it. It is not always easy, but it is important. And that's where I try to keep the focus. So I love you too.
Thanks, Nariah. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for joining Liz for the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. Remember, some days are never on your calendar until you put them there. Until next time.